So I'm Mr. Hove. I'm a consultant ophthalmologist. I do approximately 6,000 cataract operations a year.
My name is Mukhtar Bizrah. I am a consultant eye surgeon. I've been in London for just over 20 years now.
First and foremost, thank you so much for what you've done for all of us, for my family, for all of us. We're all supremely grateful. You did an amazing job. I can't sing your praises enough.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad that you've had a good outcome. I'm very, very happy for you.
So I remember saying to you that I already had barometry on my machine, and you were like, no, we need to come to the hospital and do the barometry again. Do you remember?
Yeah, of course I do, yeah.
And I think we ended up with, I don't know how many different barometries. And I remember you choosing, it was IOL Master 700 barometry that you wanted in the end.
Yeah.
It gave us the result that we wanted.
It did, and I think, look, if you're going to operate on somebody who's got lots of visual needs, there's no reason just to do one diagnostic method. So that's why we did multiple diagnostic methods. In terms of repeatability, the IOL Master 700 was very repeatable, and ultimately we did use those numbers, but also, looked at an average of a number of figures. And I think we managed to bang it in the end.
Honestly, I'm completely emmetropic. I have amazing vision. The whole experience has been fantastic. But I mean, it must have been quite challenging to having a colleague saying, can you do my eyes? I want to do both my eyes on the same day. And I only want the lens which I hadn't actually used.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie, it was pretty frightening. And as an eye surgeon myself, I know the visual needs in terms of eye surgery. And I wanted to be able to achieve the outcome that you wanted for yourself, basically. So it is frightening, but we do lots of frightening surgery pretty much on a weekly basis. Sometimes we operate on patients with only eyes, etc., etc. So we just felt that we can manage your expectations. You've mentioned a very important point, which is that you wanted a particular lens and you didn't want a surgeon to argue with you. And I think it is important to actually meet patient expectations. And I know from speaking to lots of colleagues that ZEISS AT LISA Tri is an excellent lens. So I didn't really have an issue. And I think it's important for patients as well that go for the surgery that you're comfortable with, trust your surgeon, and let them choose the correct lens for you.
So what about on the day with having to inject a lens that you've never injected before? Because the different lenses come, remember, it's different. It's a plate haptic. You're going to squeeze it through. I think it's 1.8, so it goes through a tiny opening. So you're squeezing a really big lens through a tiny opening. Were you worried that you're going to have any problems?
So I think, because obviously I was operating on an eye surgeon, I had enough to worry about already. I was worried about using a lens for the first time, but I do believe in independent practice, and by that I believe in using the lens that's right for your patient, and therefore as a result I use different lenses all the times from different manufacturers. So I'm used to using different lenses, for the first time, and the principles behind using a lens, injecting the lens are the same. As long as you're careful. I watched lots of surgical videos because I believe in continuous professional development. So I was slightly concerned about that, but feedback from colleagues was that the lens is fairly easy to use and inject. And so we managed to do everything well, thankfully. So, Mr. Hove, it's been over a year now since cataract surgery to both eyes with a trifocal lens. How are you finding things?
It's been an amazing journey. I think I did my refractions once a week for the first 6 weeks. And my left eye, I think it was 0. I think my right eye was minus 0.25 or minus a half, which is everything that you want. You want an amazing outcome, and I was emmetropic. I have an improved vision because I was probably about -1 in one of my eyes and -0.75 in the other eye. So I'm better now than I was before.
Mfazo, with trifocal lenses or multifocal lenses in general, obviously have pros and cons. So I'm really interested to know, in terms of you're an active surgeon. You're probably one of the highest volume surgeons in the UK. I just really want to know how you're finding operating in general now that you've had the surgery.
I went on holiday the moment I had my surgery, came back after 10 days, and now you do your first operations, your first list, and you're a little bit worried about, am I going to be able to see properly? I could see fine. I remember because we had our surgery in April. I remember I got to Escris, which was September, and I think I'd done somewhere in the region of about 2,000 operations or 2,500 operations, and I hadn't had a single PC rupture. Okay.
So you're comfortable.
So the results were amazing, but the reality you have is that my surgical outcomes are actually better now since I've had the surgery than they were before, marginally. You know, the glare and halos aren't an issue.
Well, since you decided to travel to Dubai without forewarning me, out of interest, there's lots of lights there, you know, especially, you know, there's active nightlife over there.
Yeah.
How did you find things like night vision symptoms such as halos around lights?
You see them at the beginning. You see them because it's new. So you notice them because you didn't really have them before, the patterns, right? The multiple rings. But actually what happens is very quickly, bear in mind that for me, I remember thinking this when I was in Dubai, my cataract was such that I could no longer see the number plates. So now the car in front of me, I would see the number plate. I see the number plate for the one in front of that one. I see the number plate for that one. But all the taillights had rings, right? So there was definitely a pattern, it was really obvious. And very quickly your brain just stops noticing it because all I could tell was colors were vivid. I could see really clearly.
Yeah.
Very quickly your brain adapts.
So do you drive at night now?
I've always driven at night. Since we got back from Dubai, because I didn't drive in Dubai, I've driven at night, still drive at night. It's not a problem at all. My night driving isn't an issue. I don't even notice the glare and halos anymore unless I stop and actively think about it.
Do you ever need spectacles?
I never had glasses before. I've never had glasses since. So I never wore glasses. I still don't need glasses. I have these lenses. I even learned things by having these lenses in my eyes that I didn't quite understand. Like, for example, I used to tell patients that they're near, they're intermediate, they're distance vision, that they would drop off in between. But actually in practice, I've just found that it's a continuous field of good vision. So in reality, they really make you spectacle independent, right? I know it's difficult to promise that to patients, but the technology really works, and I'm very happy with my eyes. And I would just add that I do think that the patient selection is critical, and that's a learned thing. But the only way to learn is to do it, right? So to a certain extent, you're just going to have to accept that you will not always get the patient selection right at the beginning. But the most important thing is if you talk to your patients enough and you keep on refining your outcomes, you get better at matching the correct patient to the correct lens.
I think, look, even if there was a perfect lens, which there isn't a perfect lens on the market, but even if there was a perfect lens, if a patient walks in through a refractive surgery practice and asks for perfection, I mean, I had this patient who wanted perfect vision, guaranteed in writing, and he sent me an email basically after paying the deposit and booking the surgery date. And I said, I can't do that, then ask for that again. I politely just refunded him the money and I just said, I'm not the right surgeon for you. So there's no perfection, there's just achieving patient expectations to a reasonable level. And you know, that's what basically drives business and results in happy patients. So Mr. Hove, I have a question which is always on my mind. You know, these multifocal / trifocal lenses reduce contrast sensitivity. We can't argue with science or the optics, they must do to some extent. But my question is, in real life, have you noticed a reduction in contrast sensitivity? If so, what did you notice?
So the reality that you have is that I think that possibly what's changed a lot is that before we read a lot on paper, right? So the reality you have is that on my phone, on my laptop, on my devices, which are all backlit, I haven't really noticed a change. Now, I would say that my brightness is now probably at 50% on my screen brightness on my phone, and I'd probably say before I got my cataract, I was probably more like 30%. I didn't really like my phone too bright. So I definitely think I've turned up the brightness on my devices, but to about half, not fully. It doesn't interfere with my life. It doesn't make a difference in terms of it adversely impacting me. I would never say to a patient that this isn't an option for you because of the small negatives. It's more realistically just trying to establish that that patient has realistic objectives, and then the lens will do the rest. Look, Mukhtar, thank you for coming and taking the time for doing this. But like I honestly said at the beginning, and I'm saying again, honestly, our whole family is indebted to you. You did an amazing job. You know, I'm forever grateful. And if there's ever anything I can do for you.
It's an absolute pleasure, and as I said, it's not just a pleasure for me, it's a relief that you've had a very good outcome and that you're happy with things and that your family is happy.